What's going on, guys? Welcome back to Neeks Sports. It's your boy Neeks, of course, with some transfer news, breaking transfer news that Manchester City, they're active. They are active this transfer window. They've got some good news recently. Obviously, we know that they were
Transfer news that
acquitted.
Manchester City.
They were acquitted of all charges with regards to FFP, found not guilty. Some charges weren't brought to the table because of the time lapse had expired. It was more than 5 years. But all in all, Man City were found not guilty. And they've gone to work in the transfer market immediately. Two transfers that the bids have been accepted pretty much there and to be signed, sealed, and delivered pretty much soon, will be Ferran Torres from Valencia and Nathan Ake. Today we had a Nathan Ake. Man City have had a £41 million bid accepted for Nathan Ake from relegated Bournemouth. And of course, the questions, we know Man City have got a dodgy defence. So the question about them actually strengthening defence was never a question. They had to do it because the likes of John Stones, the likes of Nicholas Otamendi, not good enough at all. So they had to go out in the market and do that. And I think the fact that they've gone and signed and pretty much confirmed the signing of Nathan Ake shows that Pep Guardiola knows that this is an issue. Is he worth 41 million? Of course, that's the first question everyone's going to ask. It's overpriced, etc., etc. But with the possible relaxation of FFP, Nathan Ake being one of Bournemouth's most important players, their best centre back without a shadow of a doubt, they were always going to command a good price for him. But the fact that he's been relegated, is 41 million a bit too much? The market is supposed to have contracted by about 20 or 30% because of coronavirus. So are you suggesting that if it wasn't for coronavirus, Nathan Ake would be a 60, 70 million pound defender? Or maybe let's say 60 million? Really? No, I don't know about 60 million, but it's 41 million. Man City's got the money. Man City are, I'm not going to say desperate, but no, they are. They are desperate. Man City are desperate because really and truly, the difference between them and Liverpool has been defence. They scored over 100 goals this season. Or 100, maybe I think 101 maybe they scored this season. So that was never an issue going forward. What happened was they couldn't keep a clean sheet or they couldn't keep it out of the back enough. So they'll beat teams 5-0 and the next game they're losing 3-2 to Norwich, for example. So I think defence was always a massive issue. They lost Vincent Kompany in the last summer. They weren't able to get a replacement. We know that they were in for Harry Maguire. Man United got him. And they didn't sign anyone. And I'm like, Man City, just because you missed out on your first target, you must have other options. But they went into defense into the season, but Fernandinho at centre-back, Laporte was then out for a lot of the season, majority of it, and they really, really struggled. And I think Pep is not going to want to see those kind of deficiencies happen again. What's interesting is Clayton Cruz says Ake's pretty good, to be fair. Now he is. He's a good defender. But what's interesting is that he's left-footed. And so is Aymeric Laporte. And I don't think I've ever seen two left-footed centre-backs play next to each other. Now, I'm not saying it's impossible because we see two right-footed centre-backs play. But generally, right-footed players can somehow use their left foot. Left-footed players are very, very one-footed. So I will be very surprised or be very interested to see how they pair the two, Aymeric Laporte and Ake, next to each other in a back two. Of course, if they want to go to a back three, that's more possible. And they can work their way around that. Ake, we know, has actually played at fullback as well at times. So I wonder if they're thinking about options outside on the fullback area. We know they've had issues. Zinchenko's been playing there. Mendy's had his injury issues. So maybe that versatility of Ake is why they've gone in for him. And of course, he has Premier League experience. So I wouldn't actually be surprised if they go out and get another centre-back. Hala Madrid says City needed a right-footed centre-back. And that's why the video was titled Man City pull out a Koulibaly move, because they wanted Koulibaly. That was their first choice. But if you remember, when Chelsea signed Jorginho, Man City were supposed to get him. In that summer, Man City were in for Fred and they were in for Jorginho. And they missed out on both of them to Man United and Chelsea. They wanted Jorginho. They had a bid accepted. The player had agreed to join. And Chelsea came and gazumped them with a higher bid of about 50, 55 million. And Napoli accepted that and basically said, City, you need to up your bid. And City said no, because we had everything agreed. We agreed the price, we agreed the player, and now you're trying to change it last minute. And Jorginho went to Chelsea. And of course, I think the fact that Chelsea being the capital city, playing in London, that would interest him. And Man City were refusing to match first the bid that Chelsea made, and also the wages that Chelsea had offered Jorginho, which I think were about 190,000 a week, something along those lines. So they've got a bit of a breakdown in relationship with Napoli. And I think that always was going to cause an issue about the Koulibaly, because Man City felt hard done by. Pep was very, very angry with Napoli. And it meant the Koulibaly transfer, which is already one that's going to be a bit extortionate, 29 years old. And I think they rejected a bid of about 100 million a couple transfer windows ago. So they were always going to be want to be, much further up the transfer fee market, maybe 70, 80 million. And, I said FFP may be being relaxed. We don't have the full verdict on what UEFA are going to do FFP. So I think the Napoli transfer was for Koulibaly was always going to be a bit shaken. The transfer market, when you consider the season starts in September the 12th, the transfer market ain't that long. Of course, it goes on to October, but you want to get your players in before the season starts. So I don't know if Man City wanted to get embroiled in a big transfer saga over Koulibaly and then end up missing out on another centre-back again. Raphael says Sarri was his coach at Napoli. Of course, yeah, that would give him another reason to join to join Chelsea over Manchester City. So Man City's put the Koulibaly one on a back burner and said, yeah, we're not going there. They've gone for AKE. But I wouldn't be surprised, as I said, if they go for another centre-back, because for me, Stones and Otamendi, neither of them are good enough. So if you say you got AKE and you got Laporte, you still need another one. Otamendi has to go. I think they'll keep Stones being English. We know they've already had issues in terms of getting a full 25-man squad for a Champions League. So I think Stones will stay. If they decide to go for a back three, Stones in the middle of that three could work. But I do feel they're actually going to go in for another centre-back. Clayton says 43 for AKE isn't that bad. It's not that bad. But I just expected, because Bournemouth have been relegated. Like, as a Man United fan, I'm thinking about us going in for Grealish, for example. And I'm like, if Aston Villa go down, we can knock like 20, possibly 30 million off whatever they're expecting us to pay. Bournemouth have gone down. So to still get 43 million or 41 million, I think it's been reported, they've done well. That's what I'll say. They've done well. And as I say, I guess Man City don't want to drag out this saga. They've got the money, get the player, get the deal done, get the player in, and that's that. So yeah, centre back, they're addressing those issues. The other area is Ferran Torres. Now we know Leroy Sané, he joined Bayern Munich this summer. He should have joined actually last summer. It was all set to join last summer, and because of his injury, I think he got in the Community Shield. That was again that transfer was pretty much cancelled at the time, or postponed, should I say? And also, Bayern Munich didn't really want to pay what Man City were asking, which was about 100 million. Obviously, a year later, he hasn't played for a year. He only got 1 year left in his contract. I think it was 1 year left, and it was 50 million or so that he made that transfer from Man City to Bayern Munich. So of course, Man City need to strengthen in those wide areas. At the moment, they've got Raheem Sterling, Bernardo Silva, who can play there. But I think for me, he's naturally more of a central attacking player. But of course, he can play off the right, as well as Mahrez can play off the right. And they have gone in for and had a bid accepted for Ferran Torres of Valencia, 20-year-old winger. He has majority played on the right-hand side of a front three, or on the right wing anyway. I felt it was a left wing that they needed to strengthen. But of course, we know Pep Guardiola. Anytime he signs a player, whatever position they were playing in, it ain't the position he's going to play you in. He's got a different plan for you, a different role for you. So I would not be surprised to see him line up anywhere in City's front three. 20-year-old winger. I mean, he's had a good season at Valencia. Not breathtaking. If I'm talking about, comparing the likes of what Chelsea's signings, the likes of Werner, possibly Havertz, Ziyech, the numbers for him ain't right up there. But for a young winger, and we know how Pep doesn't like to buy ready-made superstars. He likes to buy young, talented players and to mold them into what he wants specifically for his team. So I think that cheap transfer, 21 million, you get that done, finished. Doesn't mean you can't go out and get, you might say, a more marquee signing if necessary. And we know that them finishing 18 points behind Liverpool, they were always going to go big in this market. They were always going to go quick and strengthen the side. They've got a few aging players. David Silva's leaving. Foden can come in. Gundogan is, these players are around the latter stages of their career. Fernandinho, for example, we know they brought in Rodri for that. So Man City were always going to go big. Raphael says he's played both really very promising, much better than Ziyech. Now, the Ziyech one is interesting for me because I always, not that, I don't look down on it, but it's the Dutch league. So even though I look at those stats and it's like, yeah, he's ripping it up there. And to be fair, he did do his bit in the Champions League as well. But there's only so much I can read into what happens in the Eredivisie because the league ain't that strong, and Ajax are top two teams clearly in those leagues. So I'm not expecting Ziyech to bring exactly what he's done in that division into the Premier League, whereas La Liga and the Premier League in terms of quality of teams and quality of opposition is much more level. I mean, in terms of football, quality of football, La Liga surpasses the Premier League, but in terms of competitiveness, they're much more similar. So I would you're more likely, I would say, to get more success or transferring one person's success in one league in La Liga over to the Premier League and vice versa than one of the lesser leagues like over in the Netherlands. So yeah, he's a promising talent. I ain't seen much of him. I've seen a bit of him. I know that he's talented, but I'm not a scout. I'm not Pep Guardiola. He must know what he's going to do. And you told me how many times has a Pep Guardiola signing really flopped? It doesn't really happen. When he identifies a player for his role, for the role that he wants to play, invariably it's a success. Invariably. Maybe defensively he's got a bit, there's a few question marks over there, but especially from midfield going forward, they usually are successful. So it'll be interesting to see how much, let's say, game time, how he integrates into the team. 20 years old, we know, for example, when they bought Bernardo Silva, he didn't go straight into the team as the first choice. Mahrez didn't go straight into the team as the first choice. They usually got 6 months to a year, and then they're really integrated into the team. So again, I wouldn't be surprised if they go out for someone else, because if you look at another forward, look at their striker options. You got Aguero and Jesus. And they're saying this ain't going to be a Jesus bashing, but I'm not sold on Jesus at all. I'm not to replace Aguero. Not to replace Aguero. So they may go in for another forward because Aguero's getting older. Top quality striker, but he's getting older. His injury issues ain't going anywhere. Jesus, for me, hasn't proved that he can replace the goals at the highest level that Aguero gives Man City. So I wouldn't be surprised if they're going for another forward. Maybe not a central striker, but maybe someone that can play across that line. I'm not thinking of a Sancho, for example. I think Pep Guardiola has ruled that out. There was a question earlier regarding the Koulibaly. Yes, I did mention. Fabiso Chokoza says, have we pulled out the Koulibaly race? Yes, the talk is that they've chosen to pull out the Koulibaly race because of the breakdown in relationship with Napoli over the Jorginho transfer, the failed transfer that he eventually went to Chelsea. So I don't think Man City want to get embroiled in another saga, whether it's to do with price or anything like that, with Napoli again. Pep wasn't happy. He's still not happy about that. So it looks like they're not going to be going there. Now, if you spend 41 million on one centre-back, Koulibaly going to cost double that. So would they really go and spend 120 million on centre-backs when you still got Laporte? You're probably still going to have Stones next season. I think Otamendi would leave. Unless the plan is for AKE to play as a left-back or to play in a front. We have to wait and see. But yeah, that's the news for today regarding Manchester City. Nathan AKE and Ferran Torres are set to sign for Manchester City. 20 million for Torres, 40 million for Nathan AKE. Let me know in the comments below. Hit the like and subscribe button. Let me know if there's good deals, good prices for Manchester City going forward, and what more do they need, because the transfer window's really just started, but the Premier League season is round the corner. Hit the like, hit the share, hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you lot soon.